Hello again, I'm Edgar Dolman, and in this fourth segment of the Tea Party Challenge, I want to describe the second of the two great obstacles faced by our conflicting visions, complexity. Remember that a key progressive argument is that the modern industrialized world is too complex to be left free and must be managed by a staff of experts. Well, is the world too complex? The general failure of progressive enterprises actually shows that the modern social and economic systems are in fact too complex to be managed even by experts. Socialist economies are generally less efficient, less productive, and less equal than free economies. With socialized medicine, for example, health outcomes are generally worse. Medicaid provides worse medical outcomes, in fact, than having no insurance at all. An American is 20% more likely to be alive 5 years after an initial diagnosis of cancer than a beneficiary of Britain's socialized medicine. President Wilson, in justifying his vision of an unlimited state power, claimed that the nation must be led, and I quote, by thoroughly trained and completely educated men, and only comprehensive information and an entire mastery of principles and details can qualify for command. End quote. But Wilson really had no clue as to the real burden that entailed. Theorists like Wilson praised science, but they did not do science to validate their ideas. Well, here's a little science. Even large ant colonies function with no management at all. The work of the colony is guided by countless interactions between individual ants, each driven by their instinct to work. Daily, the colony must find and bring in food, maintain the nest, care for eggs, repair damage, and so on. For any given day, how much effort will be needed for each task is unpredictable. The work must be done, and ant colonies cannot afford to waste their energy. Nature evolved their behavior because it is, in fact, most efficient. Scientists call ant and bee colonies self-organizing systems, and the behavior involved as swarm intelligence. In fact, they study ant and bee behavior to develop algorithms for solving complex problems the ant and bee way, because human administrative systems can't cope efficiently with even minimally complex distribution and control problems, to say nothing of large ones, like agricultural and healthcare markets. Well, the free market is also a self-organizing system functioning with swarm intelligence, our own myriad choices. It sounds inefficient and chaotic, but it isn't. Nature proves it, and history shows that a free market works admirably when it's free. Most of the evils that we see in our markets, such as the housing bubble and the banking crises and the healthcare fiascos, were introduced by or enabled by government action. It is one thing to enforce the rules of football, but quite another to attempt to manage all the teams as they play their games, which is what progressivism attempts to do. Yet the progressives' vision continues to gain ground. If progressivism is demonstrably a failure, why are they so successful politically? In part, their success is due to their having a clear goal, effective strategies, and persistence. But mainly, I believe it's the fact that their ideology is attractive. Implicit in progressivism is the notion of a ruling class, an elite. There are those who are qualified to exercise Wilson's universal superintendence, and then there are the rest of us. Buying into progressive ideology flatters the ego and enables a person to feel a member of that superior elite, if only vicariously. A feeling that in turn encourages arrogance, superiority, and entitlement to control. Since progressivism claims to manage everything to the benefit of all, one can feel compassionate and generous without the personal burden of compassion and generosity. And if one happens to suffer the flaws of avarice or power hunger, progressivism provides a great rationalization and a fine cover. In contrast, the founder's vision of liberty and the limited purposes of government is less tempting, for it requires the humility to reject elitism and the willingness to be burdened with the responsibility to be self-reliant and personally compassionate and generous as circumstances allow. It is not insignificant that conservatives give more of their income to charity than liberals do, and that lower income people give a greater share of what they have than the rich. Still, progressives have the power and apparently the sex appeal. What can we do? I want to talk about that in the next segment of the Tea Party Challenge.